Hello, my name is Rhonda Bender at birdwithabrush.com, and today I'd like to talk to you about cold weather and your acrylic miniature paints. People who live in cold climates understandably are concerned about ordering miniature paints in the winter because they may have heard that it can damage your paints. And if you haven't heard that, it is 100% the case that if your miniature paints freeze, particularly for an extended length of time, it can damage the paint. So I'm filming this on February 20th, 2021, which is at the tail end of a major storm that hit large areas of the United States, including Texas, where Reaper Miniatures is located and where they produce their paints. I had put in an order for paint right before the storm hit, and I could tell from my circuitous UPS updating on the tracking that my package was taking some time to get here and probably ending up sitting in the cold for a while. So today my paints arrived, and I thought I had better check and see if any of them had been damaged in the cold. And then I thought, well, why don't I film that process so that you get an idea of what to look for to check whether your paints have been damaged. So first of all, well, no, I'll get to that part later. Okay, so I'm going to open up these paints. I already have an idea that at least one of them is damaged, but we're going to take a look at them and see what the signs are so that you can look for yourself what they should look like. And these are two of the bottles that I received in my frozen and delayed package. So I'm just going to use a piece of index card. You can do this on a palette or whatever you want. I have to cut up my palette paper, so this is just easier. So I'm going to start with this one. I have a vortex mixer, and I normally use that for shaking paint. I'm just going to go ahead and do it kind of the old-fashioned way on ones that are frozen. Maybe I'll just pause the video and use the vortex mixer so you don't have to listen to that noise. So my first step would be to dispense a drop of the paint and then run a brush through it and see if it acts normal. And this paint seems fine and normal. So this is one of the paints that was exposed to cold weather, and I'm pretty sure that it's fine. In fact, I'm sure enough that I wouldn't proceed to this next step, which would be to pop off the dropper and take a look inside. And you can't see it really well on the video. It's liquid flowing paint. And that's pretty much what I would expect to see. I might also check, when I'm doing paint maintenance, I also check this dropper tip because sometimes the agitator or paint just kind of gets stuck up there and starts thickening up. Okay, so that's a bottle of paint that looks fine. Even though it was exposed to the cold, it doesn't seem to have damaged the paint. I would not have qualms using this paint on a miniature figure. This one, just looking at the bottle, I already have concerns. You know, I'm tipping it over. Why isn't the paint flowing down through gravity? So I can see a little bit of liquid motion in there, but I'm already concerned about what's going to happen in here. And in fact, I'm not even going to try to dispense it through the dropper. I'm going to go straight to the opening it up stage. And we've got like the liquid thing and then some chunky parts. So for the sake of being thorough, I mean, you know, I know this is a new paint. These were colors they made specifically for Valentine's Day or February, since Valentine's Day is in February, because it's got this little heart label. But on the offhand chance that, you know, you're going through your paint supplies and they've been sitting a long time, you know, paints can separate when they've been sitting a long time. So I'm going to pause the video briefly while I shake this on my vortex mixer. Okay, I had a little bit of camera trouble, so I proceeded before I realized that, but I'm going to rewind now. So I mixed this on my vortex mixer for a good long while, but I can tell when I shake it that it doesn't behave, it doesn't have the same feel as a good bottle of paint. You can feel the paint moving from side to side in the bottle, on a bottle where the paint's flowing well, and there's hardly any movement. So I can sort of see a little bit of liquid, but I can tell there's a problem with this. But to verify, I'm going to pop off the dropper tip and put some of this out so that you can see what paint that's been affected by the cold looks like. And kind of the closest thing I would compare it to is it sort of gets a cottage cheese consistency. And as far as I know, and the people that manufacture the paint at Reaper, there's no real way, there's nothing you can mix in or stir to recover this. the paint is just sensitive to cold. So you can see that, I mean, this is some blobby stuff. So it's very much, sorry, I'm just checking my lights. It's, you're not going to be able to paint a miniature with that, and you're not going to be able to recover from that. I believe that Reaper will replace paint that this has happened with. They may not be able to in this case because this is a sample bottle and they may be out of them by now. For those who aren't aware, the samples are when they are experimenting, making new colors, but most often if they make a mistake making a color recipe, they put in a little too much of one pigment or something like that. Instead of just throwing out the batch, they bottle them into these sample bottles and include them randomly with internet orders. So unfortunate for me, this order was all paint. So I have a bunch more bottles, but you know, most of these, if I just even do the shake test, I'm feeling pretty confident that these paints are fine. I'm going to go through and test them. I'm not going to make you watch on a video. But these all seem fine. So these are regular matte colors, but I think the other set of paints from this is the Cyber Gangs, I believe, set. The other set of Reaper Virtual Expo colors is metallic. So this is the Cyber Metal Fast Palette set. My experience with metallics has been that they kind of go bad quicker than regular matte paints. So I'm a little more concerned about the metallics, but I'm shaking them and they're passing the shake test. So I think it's going to be fine. I'm going to test them all. But I think they're fine. And even though all of the paints were exposed to the same situation, whether it's because they were in the little box, or my guess is that it's a difference in the pigments, or sometimes there's a different acrylic base that they use with certain pigments. But that's probably why this one color has experienced the problem. These two paints were also loose in the bottom of the box. I mean, there was plastic bubble wrap and stuff, but these were in these plastic trays and then a cardboard container, and that may have been enough to insulate them from the cold damage. So if you do have a package on order with paints that you're worried about getting frozen, or you've realized all of a sudden you live in a more temperate place and you've just experienced an unexpected snowstorm or a cold weather snap, and you realize that you had your paints packed up in the garage or something, don't panic that they're all automatically toast because your temperatures got below freezing. Go ahead and test them, and you may find that a lot more of them have survived than you expected. In the previous time that I had this issue was in a kit of paint, another set where there were multiple paints in the set, and the only paint that was an issue was a yellow. And I'd heard that other people who bought that same set. So it was probably, in that case, I think it was stored in distributor warehouse. So if you're new to this idea that temperatures can have an effect on miniature paint, this is a warning to you to keep your paint above, store your paint somewhere where it's above freezing temperatures. So if your basement or garage is subject to being frozen for any length of time, or you start experiencing colder weather than usual, think about where your paints are and try to relocate them to a more friendly location for their storage. Okay, so I hope that's helped you spot the signs. I suspect there's a condition in between these two where the paint is just lightly frozen and it hasn't gone to complete cottage cheese. But it's easy to see that this paint is not usable. So it won't be a mystery if your paints have suffered freezing damage. I hope that helps, and I'll talk to you later in another video.